Welcome to Backward Men Cooks. So glad you're with us today. Today we are going to make a fresh pasta sauce. Delizioso. And here it is. A beautiful pasta sauce made with a combination of yellow heirloom tomatoes and red tomatoes, freshly chopped, cooked in garlic and olive oil, and served over beautiful penne. So come with me now, welcome to my kitchen, and I'll show you how it's done. Hi, so now let's see how to make that wonderful sauce. So the first thing we're going to do is heat up our pan. Now, we're doing this, we're going to start on a high heat. But we're going to lower it in a little while. And I just want you to see this pot before it gets too hot for me to pick up. This is a cast iron pot. It's covered with enamel, and it's great for making sauces and stews because it's heavy, and it will distribute the heat all throughout, and it's the perfect thing to make this in. So we're going to get this going nice and hot. And to this, we are going to add some olive oil. And I'm going to put in what would be about 2 tablespoons. Let's see if we get a close-up of this. So this is about maybe 1 and 2. Okay. And that's going to get very hot. So, we'll put that down. And now, let me show you how we're cutting the onion. So here's our onion all peeled. Please keep your fingers, see my right hand, the fingers are curled in, and the knife, my fingers are wrapped around the blade, and my thumb is up here. And the higher you hold this, the more control. Keeping your fingers in, cut down. You have 2 halves, and you put that down, and now just go along here, and Julia, if you were Julia's child, you would be cutting it like that. Oh my goodness! All right, so in this goes into our pot, and also we're going to add a yellow pepper. Now, let me show you how to open up one of these guys. With the side down, the stem is sticking out and away from you. We're going to cut the top of it off. And then you see the seeds and the stem. And we'll throw that part out. I'm just going to throw out the stem. And you see, you just reach in and grab it. And now, we're ready to cut. I'll throw out the stem as well. Okay, so you cut that in half. We're going to cut this into pieces. And I want you to see this white part here is really inedible. So you just cut it away. And the best way to do that is to start cutting into it, and about here, turn it around so that you can cut. You can hold it from the back, and you can finish cutting away from yourself, just like that. Okay, so come back in 1 second, and I'm going to have this all cut up and in the pan. All right, so as you can see, I've cleaned out the whites. Again, I'm keeping my fingers tucked in, and I'm cutting this into little strips. And just put the chunks in the pan. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Here's the top. Actually, just break this up. And now we have a spoon. You can see these beautiful onions and the yellow pepper. Alright, so now what we're going to do is lower the flame. I'm going to put this on low flame, and yep. And now I want you to see this. This is the top of this is the lid, the top of the pot. And you'll notice, I see you. I took out the holder. I took out the top of it. And the reason is that now I have this really cute little hole. Can you see that? And that makes a vent. And you're wondering, well, wait a minute. Once you get that on there, how am I going to get it off again? With these, you just pick it up, it comes right off. But the idea is that by taking the little handle away, I've made a little vent hole, and that can cook. So we're going to let that cook for about 20 or 30 minutes, and we're going to really let it get dark and brown and beautiful. So let me just show you. Here we have our fresh tomato, and I just want to show you how to cut up a tomato. Here is our tomato. Now when you have something round like this, it does have a bottom. So stand it up again, curl your fingers in, and you see that this is the stem. So you can use that as a guideline if you want to put your hand there. And cut it down, and now we have a flat surface. Much safer. And so just cut down, and around, and around. And these pieces really do not have to be anything. This is called a rough chop, when you aren't making it pretty and you're not trying to. And this goes in the garbage. So come back in about 20 or 30 minutes. We're going to check on our pot and see how the onions are doing, and we'll show you how to finish up the sauce. See you in a bit. And we're back. It's been about 35 or 40 minutes, but we want to be sure that the onions and the yellow pepper are nicely cooked and brown. And remember, before I told you, as our cameraman moves a little bit closer, thank you, cameraman, I took the handle off of the pot, took it off of the lid, and as you see, it's making a nice little vent hole there. Whoops! And this is a pot that I have of boiling water. This is going to be for our pasta later. So, how am I going to get this off? I said before, I'm going to use my little oven mitts here. Ooh, my little pot holders. I'm going to put that right down. And let's take a look in here. Isn't that beautiful? The onions and the yellow pepper cooking nicely. And now I'm going to give that a little stir. I want you to see the bottom of the pot. You see nice brown bits coming up there. Now, why does anything get brown? The reason that onions or peppers or even a steak, anything that you cook is going to get brown because of the natural sugar that's in it. Everything browns because of the natural sugars being released, and those sugars are caramelizing. If you've ever boiled sugar, you know that boiling sugar, hot sugar, gets brown and eventually turns black if you let it go too long. But that's exactly the point of what's going on in here. So, we have our onions and our pepper. And now we're going to add, this is freshly chopped garlic. I bought it this way, and I think it's a wonderful idea. And I'm going to say that this is probably about 2 cloves, maybe 3 that I had left. I'm just going to let that go right in there. And put this aside, put that in the recycling later. And now, to this, we're going to add a little bit of vermouth. Now, I've measured the vermouth out in a measuring cup because it's going to make it a little easier for me to pour in. Having a spout and a handle and not a full bottle, because I happen to have a full bottle in the wine cupboard. I haven't broken into it yet until just now. I don't want to use a whole bottle. I don't want to accidentally spill in more than I need. So it's always a good idea to measure it out into a measuring cup. What you don't use, you can pour back. And what you also don't use, in my case here, whatever isn't here goes on the rocks and I'll drink it later. I also want to make one other note. When you cook with wine, you're not using the whole bottle. So cook with a wine that you would drink. You are using the wine as a flavoring ingredient. You're using it to enhance the flavor of whatever it is you are making. So use a wine that you would drink. And, of course, whatever you don't put into your cooking ends up on the table, and now you know what wine to serve. All right, so this happens to be a red, sweet Italian vermouth, which I love. And we're going to put that, we're going to raise the heat on this. And let's see if I can do this with both hands. I'm going to add it with one hand and stir it with the other, and here we go. So let's get the pot stirring a little bit. And another little note, since you noticed I added fresh garlic, I'm not letting it cook for too long, because fresh garlic, the moment it starts to get too brown at the bottom of the pan, it will become bitter. It's better to undercook it than to overcook it. Alright, so I'm not going to use all of this. This is almost a cup. Don't need all of it. We're going to add about half. Well, that seems good. Give that a stir. And also remember, when you cook with alcohol, the alcohol evaporates. So you're left with the taste, the delicious taste. And that's what you're looking for. All right, now, here we have our lovely tomatoes. This is, actually, this is about 5 tomatoes that I have chopped up here. One of them, you can see on the bottom, is yellow. It was an heirloom tomato. And so this is a little mixture, but it's fine. If you have only red tomatoes, that works. And we're going to plop these right in. Isn't that gorgeous? We're going to give them a stir. All right, let me put this away. And here we go. Now, we are going to put the lid back on. Look at that. One hand. How do you like that? I'm going to lower the heat to a medium. We're going to let this cook for about another 5 or 10 minutes. And in the meantime, just want you to see that the water is boiling for the penne. So, I am going to do the following. I'm going to put in a little salt. And I'm going to put in a handful of salt. And this is exactly what I said it was. Got a handful of salt here. And goes right into the pot. Okay, and that's going to season the pasta. And this is a store-bought penne. This is a store-bought penne. Penne are these little tubular shapes. You can see they're cut at an angle. They're beautiful. So we are going to add the penne to the water and give that a little stir. And perhaps in the future, Backward Men Cooks, I'll show you how to make pasta from scratch. I can't make penne, but I make a lovely fettuccine. We'll do that another time. So that gives a little stir. I'm going to put this on with the lid partially off because this is going to overboil otherwise. So this is going to cook for about 10 more minutes. This is going to cook for about 5 more minutes. And I am getting out my glass. I'm going to put a little ice in it. Here's the rest of my red vermouth. Thank you very much. And kin. I'll see you in a few minutes and we'll get this pasta and lovely sauce all done. Okay, we're back and let's check on our pasta. Whoa, look at that. That is beautiful. So here's what we do. We are going to put, I'm going to get this out of here. Now this has an insert, which means that the pasta drains instantly. Isn't that beautiful? I'm just going to transfer it onto a plate. A nice heat-proof plate. I'm going to dump out most of the water. And I say most of the water because I want a little bit in there. I don't know if you can see that through the steam. There's a little bit of pasta water. And that's going to keep this warm. It's going to keep this warm. And put the lid back. Put the lid back on. And now let's see what's doing in here. Take off. Oh, now look at that. Look at that. See, the tomatoes have cooked down. That is just beautiful. Alright, this is going to need a little bit of salt and pepper. And let's see. Let's get out what would be a nice pink. Now, I'm using kosher salt, by the way. I want you to see. Look in here. This is my salt container. So, kosher salt, I think, always adds a little bit more flavor. So we're going to add probably about 2 teaspoons of salt. And I'm going to grab a couple of things while I'm here. A little bit of pepper. And if I can find it, a little bit of basil. Okay. So, you're going to use fresh pepper. This is from the mill. A few turns of that. I would say maybe a half a teaspoon or so of black pepper. And when you buy herbs, make sure that they're fresh, because even though the dried herb will last a while in your cupboard, sometimes, and I am as guilty as the next person, sometimes when I don't use something, it sits for a while. So make sure that you bought some nice fresh dried basil. We'll put that aside. And now I want to show off my immersion blender. And the great thing about this is, just as its name suggests, it goes directly into the pot. And let's see if we can't do that. So I'm going to move this off to the side. It's the hazards of cooking in a tiny kitchen. And I'm going to turn the heat off. No longer need it. Plug this in. Let's see if I can get it plugged in. There we go. Now, let's see if I can move the cord and show you this at the same time. The great thing about the immersion blender is it's going to blend everything right here in the pot, instead of having to take it out and put it into a blender or put it into a food processor. Here we go. So watch this. And away we go. That smells so delicious while it's going. Grind this all down. Into a beautiful sauce. I'm sorry you can't smell this, because it is absolute heaven. Alright, now let me just get one more little. There we go. Alright, now let's let's unplug this. Now, I recommend buying one of these. They're not terribly expensive. Most of them are within everybody's budget, within the reach of everyone's budget. And the great thing about this particular brand is that the bottom comes off. This is the part I wash. The electrical comes over here. I'll put it away in a minute. So let's plate this up. First of all, let's taste. Let's taste. That's the first thing I'm going to do. And in good Julia fashion, with hand behind the back, we're going to taste it and see how it is. And you do have to taste. Because if it needs a little bit more salt, or it needs a little bit more of anything, you want to find out now, not when you've served it. So let's see how this is. Oh, that's delicious. Oh. Mamma mia. That is very, very nice. All right. So let's plate. I'm serving this in little bowls. And we've got our lovely penne. And the penne will come out a little bit easier if I use tongs. So come. Here we go. Some lovely penne in the bowl. And of course this is not completely red. In fact, it's got this lovely golden yellow color because of the tomatoes. And yellow tomatoes are wonderful because they have a lovely sweetness to them. And because we let things cook down, oh, look at that. Is that delicious? All right, that's one for me. And how about for my husband, who's been a marvelous cameraman this whole time? I think he deserves a bowl of this too. So we'll get some of this. And we'll put it on top. How's that? He likes a lot of sauce. I'm going to put a little bit of extra on for him. Okay. Now, this is very simple. Just tomatoes, olive oil, onions, and a a yellow pepper, thank you. A yellow pepper and some seasoning. Very simple and delicious. So from my kitchen to yours, this is Backwards Men. Enjoy.